Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm keeping it simple. We're going to start with a scrapbook paper that's going to inspire every step that I continue. And here's that scrap paper. Thank you, Barbara. She gifted this to me. It's been in my stash for a while. I don't know why it spoke to me today, but I grabbed it out. And it is setting the theme. I'm thinking Japanese, Asian, and black and red. And I'm basically using this scrapbook paper as an Insta background. No fancy backgrounds on this one. We're going to take this, tweak it, and use it for the inspiration for the page. Now I'm gluing this down with fluid matte medium. This paper is really thin. It's not high-end quality scrapbook paper. It's very thin, and even with the little bit of work that I've given it, it's starting to pill. So I'm giving it a coat of clear gesso here just to turn it into a non-porous surface, because I'm really not sure at this point what all I'm going to be doing with it. And I don't want it to pill. I don't want to start having some difficulties. So I'm just basically ensuring it. Now, I love this. It looks like an umbrella in here. And I want to bring up the intensity of the spokes of the umbrella. Rays coming from the center. And I'm using brown acrylic paint, my angle brush, and that floating acrylic shading technique. And I'm just pushing up the color that was there. I like this motif. If you don't have a scrapbook paper that has it, you could easily draw lines with a ruler and then shade along them, and you're going to get the same effect of a sunburst. And actually, that's kind of what I'm going for. You can read it as an umbrella or the sun behind what is going to be my focal image. This is on my Canson Mixed Media art journal page. I didn't gesso the page because I knew I was going to glue the whole thing down, and there didn't seem to be any purpose for gesso in this instant. And I just cut the scrapbook paper to size. I don't like that green that's on there. I find very distracting. It doesn't feel like it belongs. So I'm thinking, am I going to paint it out? Now, one of my ideas right from the beginning was to use this napkin butterfly. I thought the colors really went. It even had a little bit of that green to neutralize that green, make it seem like it fits. Now I'm taking this stencil, Fantasy Tile, and to me it feels somewhat Asian, and I'm making an ornate border. Now, when I was looking online at Oriental art and stuff, a lot of times they had ornate borders or fabrics, and I wanted to do a play on that. I also know that sometimes when you buy pictures, they'll have one side of it is ornate like this, and I wanted to bring a different element. Now my goal here isn't to put borders all the way around, just to put it on that one side. And I'm taping down the stencil so that I get a better end stencil product. After some deliberation, I decided I'm going to stick with the red and black, and the center of this stencil I'm going to do red, and I start with just my straight up Artist Loft red, and then I mix in a bit of orange to make it more closely approximate the color of the flowers in the bottom left-hand corner. So I'm just putting the stencil back, grabbing some orange, and I'm just mixing it on the sponge just to get the right shade. So don't be afraid to mix your paint. Add to get the right tone. If you're matching it with something in a napkin or scrapbook paper or collage papers that you've purchased. I'm just using a makeup sponge. This is a dollar store makeup sponge. Nothing too terribly fancy. And then because I'm using the 6-inch one, I am going to be moving that down. I'm happy with how it looks, and I'm deciding, okay, I'm going to go with my original plan, which is to do that whole part. But I wanted to look at it and think, you know, just in case, I just wanted to do that center part, if I was happy with that. I chose this one because this stencil, because it looked somewhat Asian. I like the shape of it. It mirrors the shape of the flowers in the bottom left-hand corner. So here I'm just adding the black. So I'm really keeping this simple. We have one stencil, one scrapbook paper, 3-4 colors in total. You don't need to do everything. So I'm really liking what is happening here. I'm giving this a dry before I move the stencil down. I don't want to smear my stenciling. I'm not going to get too worried if it's not exactly perfect, but at the same time, I want to keep it fairly clean. So I'm just going to match the stencil here, tape it down, and then continue on. I also like how the circle in the middle of the motif in the stencil that I'm adding matches the center of the scrapbook paper. You've got that circle in the middle. When you're adding elements, when you're mixing and matching, you want them to work together. There's got to be some common ground. When you're stenciling, go slow. A little bit of paint at a time and build up the opacity of the paint. So again, I've got a little bit left over there. I'm going to dry it and then put the stencil back on. If I was doing this on a canvas, I would have done this, I think, with modeling paste that either I colored or stencil butters that are colored, just to add texture. Now I'm using the makeup sponge and I'm just going to put black acrylic paint to frame and edge my page. I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'm going to turn it this way. You know, I never am absolutely certain what orientation I'm going to place it in. I always look at both ways because sometimes when you turn it, that falls together. Now I'm going to decide on my focal image. I could go and put the butterfly as I intended. I like how it brings out that green and it fits. It would work. Then I had gone on to Raw Pixel when I was looking at Japanese art, and this was in the public domain section. And I searched Japanese art, and this came up. And so I printed it off. And my color printer wouldn't print in color, so I got black and white, but I kind of liked it. And I thought, okay, I could use that. That would fit. Or I can combine both. So what I did is I took a picture of all, and then I can look at it and I can make my decision. What would you pick? I decided that I didn't want that red dot in the middle, so I grabbed my unbleached titanium, which was a close color match to the background, and I'm just painting that out. You could have put a coat of gesso there first and paint it out so that it's gone. I don't want that to be the image. And I'm rubbing with my fingers just to smear the paint and not have the straight edge. The girl is going to go in front of it. Now I've taken this, I think, and it's no longer really looking like an umbrella. It's more sun. And I think, oh, I could put the 12-inch of this fantasy tile stencil behind her head. And I decide I'm going to stencil with gold. Now this is not going to show up forward. It's very much in the background, very subtle, and that's okay. I just want a little bit of shine, a little bit of shimmer behind her head, and I want to repeat that pattern that's in that ornate border on the right-hand side. So this is where you can use the same stencil in two different sizes. I'm gluing this down with TCW's gel medium. It's a matte finish. And I want to turn this, it's printed on just copy paper, 24-pound copy paper. It's a little heavier. I buy it at Costco. I think it's Roland brand, I believe. So it's a little heavier than most generic copy papers, which I like. It doesn't pill, it takes wet quite well. But I want to turn it into a non-porous surface because I'm going to do some shading on it, and I haven't ruled out painting it, adding some red into her dress. I'm going to shade across the top and down the sides a little bit just to get a little bit more softness and shading. And because I placed that girl on top of that green, that pushed the green back. I was thinking about painting that out just like I painted out the center, but I thought, you know what, I'm just going to leave it. It looks like she's standing on the ground there. Now I wanted to add these branches. So I am going to extend what was on the scrapbook paper, add more black lines, just kind of fill it in, make it my own. I just needed it, I wanted a little bit more substantial on that left-hand side, a little more red, so I'm just adding my own branches. Trying not to overthink it, going really loose, holding. It's very abstract, you know, the scrapbook paper was, so I don't have to worry too much. The paint that's in the black is thinned down. This is my splatter paint, so it's thinned down. And then I'm dipping my finger, my baby finger, in the red orange paint and painting the flowers. I'm going very rough, very abstract. I'm trying not to overthink it. Then I grab a round brush and I decide, that works too. So I'm painting over those, then getting a little bit more rounded shapes, and then painting over what was on the scrapbook paper as well. So it all looks like I've painted it. So again, I've taken what was there and I'm adding to it and making it all work together. And so it's exactly the same color paint that I used on the stenciling on the other side now, because I've gone over top of it. I want some bigger flowers and some smaller ones. And then I'm just using my liner brush and just dotting the centers, mimicking what they had on the scrapbook paper. That one became a mess. I'm going to come back and fix it in a minute. I just lift up the paint with a baby wipe and then come back in with more. This is a stencil that I had cut several years ago in a font that I think downloaded from dafont.com. I'm just stenciling with black paint. Imagine. So again, you know, with black and red, with that little bit of gold, and the very neutral background, which pretty much was as is. Now I'm going to shade around my girl, my focal image. I want to bring her out, and I'm going on the outside of the cutout, the printable, and then I will shade on the inside as well, extend the lines. And it's not going to absorb right into the paper and wick out because I coated it completely with the gel medium. It allows me to do this shading part. And I decided that I didn't want to add any color to her. But I will definitely use this printable, this free domain, public domain picture again on another art journal page. I really like it, and I know I have some napkins that it would go well with. So go and look through your scrapbook papers. Is there something on one that you can use as an Insta background that will inspire you to pull stencils and printables and other things that in your stash and work together? I'm splattering with gold. And there we have the finished page. It was super simple, but effective. Thanks for watching. Until next time, go get creative.